The combat simulation chamber of Sector 9 reeked of scorched circuits and bruised egos. I had overseen 7 generations of recruits, yet never encountered a specimen so clearly ill-suited for warfare, packed into such a fragile shell. The human female stood barely 150 centimeters, her complexion pallid under the sterile glow of the overhead panels. Deep violet crescents hung beneath her eyes, evidence of prolonged sleep deprivation. Her dossier identified her as Cadet Aris Thorn, origin, Terran system. Physical combat rating, deficient. Tactical aptitude, below minimum thresholds. Recommendation, summary rejection. A deep, rumbling, synthetic bass sting cuts through the silence. "This," thundered Drillmaster Vornax, his armored fist slamming against a console, "is what the backwater planet sends us? A creature a stiff wind could snap?" The surrounding trainees, massive Craxian arthropods with chitinous plating, sleek V-Cilian predators with muscle density 4 times galactic average, even the modestly sized Thelians, who towered at 2 meters, erupted in derisive laughter. The sound reverberated off burnished walls like a symphony of contempt. My secondary auditory membranes flattened involuntarily. Aris said nothing. Her jaw tightened, micro-muscles flickering beneath that vulnerable skin, yet she held Vornax's gaze without flinching. "Perhaps," Vornax continued, circling her like a starved predator, "we should return you to your agricultural world. Inform the Council that the Alliance maintains standards." "I'm not leaving, sir." Her voice emerged soft but unbroken, each syllable measured. More laughter. I studied her intently, a puzzle piece forced into the wrong box. What secrets was this fragile form concealing? Humans had been granted Alliance membership barely 12 cycles prior. Their admission remained controversial. Their homeworld dismissed as a low-gravity backwater of minimal strategic significance. Most Terran volunteers washed out within 30 days, unable to compete with species evolved under crushing gravitational forces or cutthroat ecosystems. This one appeared unlikely to survive orientation week. "Staying?" Vornax's mandibles clicked with dark amusement. "Very well, Earthchild. Combat assessment immediately." His predatory gaze swept the assembly, locking onto Drax, a Craxian built like a siege engine. The creature stepped forward, each footfall sending micro-tremors through the deck plates. Nearly 2.5 meters tall, exoskeleton gleaming like oiled basalt, clawed hands flexing with anticipation. My neural implant calculated survival odds for Aris at 8%, victory probability 0.01%, statistical guarantee of utter humiliation. Aris walked to the mat center with small economic movements. Standard-issue grey training fatigues hung loose on her diminutive frame. Beside Drax, she resembled a child's toy, discarded in a war zone. "Standard rules," Vornax announced. 3 confirmed strikes or submission. A metallic clang signals the start. "Begin." Drax charged immediately, overwhelming force and speed the Craxian way. His massive fist, knuckles reinforced with bone ridges capable of fracturing durasteel, arced toward Aris's skull. She wasn't there. The evasion occurred so rapidly, my primary optical sensors struggled to register it. Aris had dropped, rolled, and emerged behind Drax's lead leg. Her small fist struck precisely at the joint between exoskeletal plates, the vulnerability every species possessed, yet few could exploit given their size disadvantages. Drax roared, surprised more than wounded, spinning with unexpected agility. His backhand swipe could have decapitated a V-Cilian. But Aris had already repositioned, staying inside his reach where his massive limbs had reduced leverage. The laughter died. For 90 seconds, Aris made Drax appear amateurish. She flowed everywhere and nowhere, striking joints, exploiting soft points, converting his mass into liability. When he grabbed, she slipped. When he charged, she redirected momentum. Then Drax adapted. He stopped targeting her directly, instead slamming both fists into the mat. The shockwave staggered Aris. Before she recovered, his tail, thick as my torso, swept her legs. She crashed hard, breath evacuating her lungs in an audible gasp. Drax pinned her instantly, one massive hand trapping both arms. his weight crushing her into the surface. "Submit, Earthchild," he growled, not cruelly. "You fought well, but biology has limits." Aris's face cycled through red to purple. Her legs kicked uselessly against armor that registered such impacts as gentle tapping. "Submit," Vornax commanded. "That's an order, Cadet Thorn." Shallow, strained breathing fills the silence. Her lips moved, barely a whisper. "No." "What?" I said, "No, sir." Her voice emerged as a pained rasp, yet somehow still defiant. "I won't quit." Madness. Beautiful, absolute madness. Drax hesitated, uncertain, his training warring with basic decency. Vornax's expression cycled through confusion, irritation, then something approaching concern. "Drax, release her. The Terran has demonstrated sufficient tenacity." The Craxian stood. Aris lay gasping, bruises already flowering on pale skin, but she was smiling, actually smiling, as if losing had somehow satisfied some internal metric. What kind of species learns to enjoy defeat? Medical drones swarmed, their scanners painting her in diagnostic light. Minor fractures, soft tissue damage, respiratory stress, nothing permanent. As they lifted her onto an anti-grav stretcher, Aris's eyes found mine across the room. We locked gazes for perhaps 2 seconds. In that moment, my combat instincts, honed through decades of service, screamed a warning. This human was dangerous, not for physical prowess or tactical brilliance. Something else lurked behind those eyes, something patient and calculating that suggested this entire display had been exactly what she intended. That night, sleepless despite the late hour, I accessed Aris Thorn's full file. Most matched what I already knew: mediocre scores, bottom 10% physically, psychological evaluations noting extreme stubbornness and refusal to acknowledge limitations. But one section bore Alliance security seals requiring Level 7 clearance. As a senior instructor and former intelligence operative, I possessed Level 8. Decryption chimes descend as I activate the sequence. Security barriers dissolved layer by layer. The file expanded, revealing almost nothing. A single line of text, stark against black background. Subject access, restricted pending verification of death or permanent incapacitation. Authorization code required. Warning, unauthorized disclosure punishable by summary execution. My blood ran cold. This security classification didn't exist for Academy cadets. It barely existed for active field operatives. The last time I'd encountered such measures was during the Kirathi incident, when we'd discovered Alliance Council members replaced by hostile intelligences. That investigation had resulted in 17 executions and complete counterintelligence restructuring. What in all the dark voids was a human doing with this clearance in a basic training facility? I tried the authorization prompt anyway, knowing my credentials wouldn't suffice but unable to resist. A harsh rejection buzz sounds. The system immediately locked down. Red warning text flooded my screen. Unauthorized access attempt logged. Security response initiated. Remain in position. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I'd just triggered alarm systems that would bring armed response teams within minutes, all because I couldn't control my curiosity. My quarters door hissed open without command. 3 figures entered. Not security personnel, but unmarked black uniforms of Alliance intelligence. Reflective visors turned them into faceless instruments of authority. Instructor Kalen Vaughn. The lead agent's voice emerged synthesized. "You attempted to access classified materials regarding Cadet Aris Thorn. Explain." Truth seemed safest. The cadet demonstrated unusual characteristics during combat assessment. Her file security classification seemed disproportionate to her apparent status. As an instructor responsible for Academy safety, I deemed investigation appropriate. Silence stretched. "Your curiosity is noted. However, you will cease all further investigation. You will treat her as any other student. You will not discuss this matter. Violation will result in immediate detention and psychological reconditioning. Acknowledge compliance." I acknowledge and will comply. The words tasted like defeat. They left as silently as they'd arrived. But their presence confirmed my suspicions. Aris Thorne was not what she appeared, and someone very high in Alliance power wanted her identity protected at all costs. Morning arrived too quickly. I reached the training hall to find Aris already present, released from medical, apparently suffering no lasting effects. She performed warm-up exercises alone in a corner, while other cadets gave her wide berth. Was it respect or fear of the unknown? Vornax arrived, mood improved, likely from betting credits on Drax. Today, he announced, tactical simulations, squads of 5, random scenarios, problem-solving under pressure. Performance affects advanced training stream rankings. Cadets sorted into comfortable groupings, species clustering with species. This left Aris standing alone, watching with weary resignation. The Terran joined Squad 7, Vornax declared, consulting his datapad. Squad 7 consisted of 4 Thelians, tall, elegant, grey-skinned nobles who exchanged displeased glances. Their leader, a male named Jorvac, approached Aris with visible reluctance. "Try not to hinder us, human. We're ranked 3rd. We don't need dead weight." "Understood," Aris replied quietly. No anger, no defensiveness, just flat acknowledgement. The simulation chambers generated holographic environments, everything from peaceful negotiations to full-scale planetary invasions. Squad 7 drew Scenario Delta 19, hostile boarding action on a damaged freighter. Objective: secure engineering before reactor destabilization. Time limit: 12 minutes. I observed through the monitoring suite, maintaining special attention on Squad 7. The Thelians moved with practiced coordination, their natural telepathic abilities enabling seamless communication. Aris trailed behind, shorter legs forcing her to jog while they walked. Her assigned plasma rifle looked comically oversized. Holographic weapon discharge echoes through the chamber. The freighter's corridors were narrow, poorly lit, smoke from electrical fires reducing visibility. Enemy combatants, simulated but dangerous within parameters, defended choke points with overlapping fire. Squad 7's initial assault ran into immediate resistance. Energy bolts tore through air in lethal streams. Jorvac directed his team with competent efficiency. Standard Alliance doctrine: suppress, flank, overwhelm. It should have worked. But these enemies fought differently. Hit-and-run tactics, refusing to hold positions long enough to be flanked, falling back through maintenance tunnels. Unconventional, frustrating, alarmingly effective. Squad 7's advance stalled completely, pinned in a junction with 3 access corridors, 8 minutes remaining. "We're wasting time," one Thelian hissed. Frustration bled through their telepathic link strongly enough for monitoring equipment to register. "All routes are compromised," Jorvac snapped. "We push blind, we lose team members, we fail." 7 minutes. Aris had remained silent, crouched behind a structural beam, eyes constantly moving. Now she spoke. "The service ducts." "What?" Jorvac didn't look at her. "They're using service ducts for repositioning. That's why flanking fails. They move through infrastructure, not corridors." Jorvac's sarcasm could strip paint. "Brilliant observation. Unfortunately, we're too large for ducks. Unlike humans, we evolved on worlds with actual predators." Aris's jaw tightened, but her voice remained level. "You can't fit, I can. Give me 3 minutes. I'll flush them into your firing lanes." 6 minutes remaining. Jorvac hesitated. Combat doctrine warring with pride. Accepting help from the weakest member would admit his strategy failed. But the chronometer showed brutal reality. "Fine, 3 minutes, then we advance regardless." Garrus moved before he finished speaking. Dropping the oversized rifle, drawing a compact sidearm. She located a maintenance access panel, pried it open with surprising strength, and disappeared into darkness that would terrify most species. Humans, I reflected, had evolved as endurance hunters on savannas where predators could see them from miles away. They'd survived not through strength or speed, but through sheer stubborn persistence, willingness to go where others couldn't or wouldn't follow. Thermal imaging showed Aris crawling through spaces barely wider than her shoulders. She moved quickly, efficiently, showing no hesitation in the claustrophobic environment. Within 90 seconds, she'd positioned herself above the enemy's strong point, a ventilation shaft offering clear line of sight to their defensive position. What happened next violated every tactical doctrine taught in Alliance academies. Aris dropped a smoke grenade directly into the enemy position. As choking clouds filled the corridor, she emerged from the shaft like a nightmare creature, landing among disoriented enemies with her sidearm blazing. The simulated combatants, programmed to react like real opponents, panicked. They ran directly into Squad 7's waiting firing lanes. The Thelians didn't hesitate. They cut down fleeing enemies with clinical precision, creating a killing zone nothing could survive. Sustained plasma fire fills the space. Within 30 seconds, the strongpoint was eliminated. Path to engineering clear. 3 minutes 40 seconds remaining. Squad 7 reached the objective with time to spare, securing reactor controls, completing the scenario well within parameters. But none of them celebrated. They stood in shocked silence, staring at Aris, who'd rejoined them looking slightly singed and significantly pleased. Jorvak's expression cycled through confusion, admiration, and something approaching fear. "How did you—" "Humans are small," Aris said simply. "We learned to use it as advantage." The simulation ended. As they filed out for debriefing, I noticed other cadets watching Aris with new interest. Word had spread. That evening, I violated my agreement with Alliance intelligence, not overtly, but through careful observation. If I couldn't access Aris's files directly, perhaps I could understand her through actions, choices, details. She ate alone in the cafeteria, consuming food with mechanical efficiency. No pleasure, just fuel. She studied training materials long after other cadets retired, her quarters lights visible until deep into night cycle. She volunteered for additional physical conditioning, despite already meeting minimums, pushing her inadequate human physiology to absolute limits. Was this someone trying to survive academy, or someone on a mission? On the 5th day, everything changed. An emergency klaxon shrieks through the academy, the specific tone indicating not a drill, but actual crisis. All instructors reported immediately to Command Center, where Admiral Thaler addressed us with barely controlled fury. 15 minutes ago, the freighter Starfall transmitted a distress signal from Sector 19. Pirates, well-armed and organized, have seized the vessel and its crew of 72 civilians. They're demanding ransom and safe passage, threatening executions if we attempt military intervention. Standard procedure called for our rapid response team, elite operators trained specifically for hostage rescue. But Thaler continued. The Starfall is registered to Councillor Vex. It carries his family and personal staff. This is not just a pirate incident. This is a political crisis that could destabilize the entire sector. All Academy training operations suspended. We're deploying every available asset, including advanced cadets. This is now a live exercise with real consequences. Drill Master Vornax, select your 5 best tactical squads for support. Vornax consulted rankings. Squad 7 made the list, primarily due to their Delta 19 performance, which meant Aris Thorn, the weak Earthborn who could barely pass physical requirements, was about to face actual combat against enemies who wouldn't pull their strikes. The briefing took 40 minutes, tactical displays showing freighter layout, enemy positions, probable hostage locations. The pirates had positioned brilliantly, using hostages as living shields while controlling critical systems. Any direct assault would cause significant civilian casualties. Our advantage, the operation commander explained, a scarred V-Cillian veteran named Kraith, is they expect military response, not academy students. They'll watch for armored assault teams, not training units, support squads approach through unexpected vectors. Sound plan, assuming 100 variables aligned perfectly. The transport flight to intercept coordinates took 90 minutes. Cadets sat in nervous silence. I watched Aris carefully, looking for fear, doubt, anything explaining her mysterious classification. She sat motionless, eyes closed, breathing slow and controlled. Meditation, or simply conserving energy. Visual range achieved. The Starfall looked like a wounded beast, hull scarred by weapons fire, emergency lighting casting hellish red glow. Boarding pods launched. Squad 7 drew a vector targeting the cargo bay. theoretically undefended, offering access to lower decks where hostages were reportedly held. As they boarded, Yorvak pulled Aris aside. Earlier contempt replaced by something approaching respect. "Listen, human. What you did in simulation was impressive, but this is real. People die here. If you're scared, if you can't handle it, tell me now." Aris met his gaze steadily. "I appreciate the concern, Yorvak, but I'm exactly where I need to be." The words carried weight, layers of meaning suggesting this moment represented something more than another training exercise. This was why she'd endured mockery, accepted brutal punishment, pushed beyond reasonable limits. This was the mission. The boarding pod hit with a metallic shriek. Magnetic clamps engaged, cutting torches flared. Within 40 seconds, they'd burned through 2 inches of Durasteel plating. Squad 7 dropped into the cargo bay, weapons raised, senses alert. Silence greeted them. Empty crates, scattered equipment, shadows dancing in flickering light. Too easy. "Advance to Checkpoint Alpha," Kraith's voice crackled through comms. "Primary teams engaging hostiles on Deck 3. Need you to secure auxiliary power grid, cut off their life support control." Yorvak signaled forward. The Thelians flowed like water, telepathic coordination enabling efficiency that would impress veteran units. Aris followed, weapon ready, her small size advantageous in cluttered environments. They'd penetrated 3 decks deeper when the trap sprung. Multiple explosions ripped through corridors behind them, sealing retreat routes with collapsed bulkheads and ruptured power conduits. Simultaneously, hidden gun turrets emerged from ceiling mounts, filling passageways with plasma fire hot enough to melt steel. Thelians scattered, seeking cover, but one wasn't fast enough. Energy bolts caught him center mass, burning through armor and flesh. He dropped, screaming, his telepathic death throes flooding the squad's mental link with agony. "Fall back!" Yorvak roared, but there was nowhere to fall. Exit blocked by tons of wreckage. Aris moved without hesitation, sprinting directly toward the gun turrets when every rational instinct should have told her to seek shelter. She zigzagged, unpredictable, using cargo containers as momentary shields. Plasma bolts traced lethal paths around her, missing by margins so thin I couldn't comprehend her timing calculation. She reached the turret's base, too close for targeting systems to track, and slapped something against the mounting bracket. Then she ran again, diving behind a support beam just as the shaped charge detonated, ripping the turret from its moorings in a shower of sparks. "Grenade on turret 2. Focus fire. Overload cooling system." The remaining Thelians responded instantly, pouring concentrated plasma into the second turret. Within seconds, thermal management failed, causing a cascade reaction that turned the weapon into an improvised bomb. A massive explosion clears their forward path. Silence returned, broken only by labored breathing and the wounded Thelian's quiet moans. Yorvak knelt beside his fallen comrade. Still alive, but critical. Needs evacuation now. "Negative on evacuation," Kraith cut through. "All extraction routes compromised. Pirates have anti-aircraft batteries targeting any departing craft. You push forward or you die there." Brutal calculus, but accurate. The mission had become one way until someone neutralized those batteries. Aris knelt beside the injured Thelian, pulling emergency medical supplies from her pack. "Go," she told Yorvak. "I'll stabilize him, catch up when he's secure." "You can't stay alone. That's suicide." "I said go, that's not a suggestion." Something in Aris's voice had changed, an edge of command that made even the proud Thelian hesitate. "You have 3 minutes before pirates send reinforcements to investigate explosions. Move now or fail completely." Yorvak's combat training warred with instinct, but mission won. He led remaining squad members forward, leaving Aris alone with the dying and approaching enemy forces. I watched through Aris's helmet camera, my role as observer keeping me safely aboard our command ship, while cadets fought for survival. It felt cowardly. Aris worked with surprising medical competency, sealing wounds, administering trauma drugs, stabilizing condition from critical to severe. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, no wasted motion, no hesitation. This wasn't someone learning battlefield medicine. This was someone who'd done it many times before. "You're going to live, Verak," she murmured, using the injured cadet's name. Your bondmates are waiting. You'll see them again. I promise. Footsteps echoed through adjacent corridors, multiple contacts moving fast. Pirates had arrived to investigate. 5 pirates emerged into the cargo bay, a mixed group of Craxians and Vicilians, weapons marked with kills, armor battle-scarred, professional criminals. Their leader, a Vicilian female with acid-scarred features, laughed when she saw Aris. Look what we have here, a little Earthborn playing soldier. Where are the rest of your friends? Aris stood slowly, positioning herself between pirates and Verak. Sidearm holstered, posture non-threatening, hands visible and empty. Gone, just me and the wounded, non-combatants, no threat. You can leave us. The pirate's amusement deepened. Oh, I don't think so. We have quotas to meet. Dead Alliance cadets send excellent messages. She raised her heavy plasma rifle, capable of vaporizing Aris's entire torso in a single shot. Time seemed to slow. That horrible compression before violence, when every detail becomes crystalline and inevitable. Aris's hand moved. I'd seen fast draws, spent decades with elite operators who could clear and fire in under half a second. Aris was faster. Her sidearm appeared as if teleported. She fired 3 times before the pirate leader's finger completed its trigger pull. 3 rapid shots ring out. First shot, leader's throat, punching through soft tissue, severing spinal column. Second, a Craxian's unarmored eye socket, the only vulnerable point on his entire body. Third, a Vicilian trying to bring his own weapon to bear, the bolt entering through his open mouth and exiting through the back of his skull. 3 dead in under 2 seconds. Remaining pirates, shocked by impossible speed, froze for a fatal instant. Aris didn't freeze. She moved like liquid death, closing distance while firing using corpses as momentary shields, movements so precise they seemed choreographed. Another pirate fell, then another. 5 bodies cooling on deck. Aris stood alone, breathing hard but uninjured. She checked each corpse methodically, ensuring no survivors, then returned to Verek's side as if mass killing was simply another task requiring completion. "Still with me, Verak?" she asked softly. The Thelian stared at her with all 4 eyes. "What are you?" he whispered. "Stubborn," Aris replied, reloading with practiced efficiency. "Very, very stubborn. Now stay quiet. Conserve strength." Through tactical network, chaos reigned. Primary assault had met heavier resistance than anticipated. Significant casualties, minimal progress toward hostages. Pirates fought with coordination suggesting military training, possibly former Alliance soldiers turned mercenary. And then Aris's voice cut through communications chaos, calm and absolutely certain. "Commander Kraith, this is Cadet Thorn. I've neutralized hostile forces in Cargo Sector 7. I have access to maintenance tunnels leading directly to hostage location. Request permission to proceed independently." "Negative. You're a cadet, not a tactical operator. Hold position. Wait for reinforcement." "Sir, with respect, reinforcements won't arrive before pirates execute hostages. I can reach them in 8 minutes through routes too small for defenders to guard. This is our best option." "I said negative, Cadet. That's a direct order." Silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then Aris spoke again, carrying tones I'd never heard before. Authority transcending rank and hierarchy. "Commander, verify authorization code Omega-79 Delta. Execute now." A priority override chime sounds. What happened next violated every chain of command principle military organizations held sacred. Communications network paused. Then priority override codes activated, the kind that only existed for highest classification operations. Krath's voice returned, stripped of certainty, containing confusion and fear. "Authorization confirmed. Cadet Thorn, you are cleared for independent operation. All units provide support as requested. Do not interfere with subjects' operational decisions." The entire command structure had just inverted. Aris, the weakest cadet, the Earthborn everyone mocked and dismissed, now possessed operational authority superseding military commanders. She didn't waste time explaining. She moved, pulling Verak into a concealed position, ensuring he'd survive until medical teams arrived. Then she disappeared into maintenance tunnels. I finally understood. The security classification, the armed intelligence agents, the warnings. Aris Thorne wasn't just a cadet. She was something else entirely, some kind of deep-cover operative placed within the academy. Her weakness, struggles, apparent inadequacy, all carefully constructed fiction. We'd dismissed her, patronized her, treated her as a charity case. We'd been fools, dangerous, arrogant fools who'd mistaken the weapon for the target. Aris navigated maintenance tunnels with eerie confidence, as if she'd memorized the freighter's entire layout. She bypassed security checkpoints, avoided patrol routes, moved through infrastructure like a ghost. Within 6 minutes, she'd reached a position directly above the hostage compartment, a converted cargo hold guarded by a dozen heavily armed pirates. Hostages confirmed. 71 visible, 1 unaccounted for. Councillor Vex's family cluster separated from main group, probably special leverage. 12 guards, alert and professional, automated defenses at all entry points. Direct assault will cause mass casualties. Can you wait for support? Kraith asked, though we all knew answer. Negative. Pirates preparing to execute 5 hostages in 4 minutes, demonstrating seriousness. If we wait, people die. What could one human possibly do against 12 armed professionals? Then what do you propose? Aris's response came cold and clinical. I'm going to kill everyone who threatens civilians. Request all units create maximum noise and distraction in 60 seconds. Make them think main assault is coming from Deck 4. Pull attention and resources away. She didn't wait for acknowledgement, simply began final approach. Through ventilation shaft, she could see everything. Terrorized hostages huddled together, pirates standing watch with weapons ready, improvised execution set up where 5 civilians knelt before a recording device, their deaths intended as propaganda, showing Alliance weakness. The distraction began on schedule. Explosions and weapons fire erupting across Deck 4. Alarms shrieking, emergency lighting strobing. Pirates reacted exactly as predicted, half their force rushing toward perceived threat, leaving only 6 to guard hostages. Still too many for direct assault, still impossible odds. Harris dropped through a ceiling panel, landing behind the guard furthest from hostages. Her knife, some kind of monomolecular blade capable of cutting durasteel, found his throat before he could shout warning. She dragged his body into shadows, took his rifle, and became something nightmares would envy. What followed wasn't combat. It was extermination. She moved through the compartment like inevitability itself, each shot perfectly placed, each movement calculated for maximum efficiency. She used environment brilliantly, shooting out lights to create darkness that confused enemies, while her helmet's night vision kept her oriented. Hostages watched in terrified awe as this small human systematically dismantled their captors. Within 90 seconds, all 6 guards lay dead or dying. Aris stood among them, weapon raised, scanning for threats. Hostages secured, casualties 0, requesting immediate evacuation. But operation wasn't finished. Pirates still controlled bridge and engineering, still threatened to destroy vessel if demands unmet. Main assault remained stalled, taking casualties, achieving nothing. Aris checked hostages quickly, then addressed them directly. I need information. The missing person from Councillor Vex's party, where are they? An elderly V-Cillian female, doubtless someone important based on elaborate clothing, spoke with remarkable composure. The councillor's eldest daughter, Syra. They took her separately, said she was insurance against treachery. She's on the bridge, being held as final leverage. Aris nodded, processing with visible calculation. Rescuing 1 hostage from fortified bridge position would be nearly impossible. Doing it without getting that hostage killed would require either divine intervention or tactics so unorthodox they defied classification. Commander Kraith, I'm going after remaining hostage. Bridge is command center. We take that, we end this. Thorne, Bridge has 20 hostiles and hardened defenses. Even with your authorization, I can't endorse suicide. Not suicide, surgery. I need Squad 7 to create opening on my signal. Have them ready to breach port side airlock in exactly 12 minutes. Timing critical. She was moving again before Kraith could protest, running through corridors with absolute confidence. heading toward most heavily defended position on entire ship. I wanted to scream at her to stop, to wait for proper support, to abandon this madness. But something in her movements, her decisions, suggested she operated from knowledge we didn't possess. Playing a game with rules only she understood. Aris reached junction near bridge, taking cover behind structural support. Squad 7 positioned for their assault. Pirates concentrated on repelling main attack. When you breach that airlock, you'll face immediate heavy resistance. Don't fight through it, just make noise, draw attention. Make them commit forces to that vector. Can you do that? We can do it, Jorvac confirmed. Earlier contempt completely vanished. But what will you be doing? Something stupid, timing critical. Execute in 10 seconds on my mark. Aris pulled something from equipment harness, a compact, unmarked device I didn't recognize. She attached it to maintenance hatch, activated remote sequence, then began counting down. 3, 2, 1, mark. Squad 7's breach charge detonated, blowing airlock open, filling corridor with fire and fury. Pirates rushed toward new threat, exactly as Aris predicted. And in that moment, when every eye focused elsewhere, she activated her device. Maintenance hatch exploded inward with shaped charges definitely not standard Academy equipment. Aris went through smoking opening before debris stopped falling, emerging directly onto bridge behind all defensive positions. The one spot no one expected enemies. 20 pirates turned as one, weapons swinging. But Aris wasn't attacking them. She targeted equipment, specifically communications array and self-destruct mechanism. First shots destroyed transmitter, cutting pirates off from reinforcements. Second volley took out destruct control panel, ensuring they couldn't destroy ship as final revenge. Only then did she turn weapon toward living targets. Bridge descended into chaos. Pirates scrambled for cover while trying to acquire targets, their numerical advantage meaningless in confined space where friendly fire became serious risk. Aris used this brilliantly, positioning herself so enemies couldn't shoot without hitting each other, moving constantly, never remaining static long enough for coordinated response. And through it all, she protected one person above all others. Syra, the counselor's daughter, a young Vicilian female tied to captain's chair as living deterrent. Aris kept her body between hostage and incoming fire, took hits on armor that would have killed civilian, all while systematically reducing threat count. Pirates broke, not from casualties, though those mounted quickly, but from psychological pressure. They'd expected soft targets, frightened cadets, conventional tactics. Instead, they'd found something primal and relentless, something that fought with precision suggesting extensive combat experience, and determination suggesting personal stakes beyond simple duty. Last 3 pirates threw down weapons, hands raised, shouting surrender. Aris accepted, restraining them efficiently while keeping weapon ready for treachery that never came. Within 5 minutes of breaching bridge, she'd secured room, freed hostage, and effectively ended entire operation. Bridge secure. Final hostage safe. Ship is ours. Aftermath took hours. Medical teams evacuated wounded, both Alliance forces and pirate survivors. Engineers secured freighter systems. Intelligence officers interrogated prisoners. And through it all, Aris sat alone in debriefing room, waiting for questions she knew were coming. I entered without permission, beyond caring about protocols already shredded. Who are you really? What is an Alliance intelligence operative doing masquerading as an Academy washout? Aris looked at me with eyes that had seen too much, contained depths I'd only glimpsed today. You don't have clearance for that answer, Instructor. Neither do most people in the Alliance. What I can tell you, sometimes the best way to observe something is from the position everyone dismisses. The weak cadet no one notices can see things the decorated hero cannot. This was all an assignment? Enduring mockery, physical abuse, social isolation? Partly. She smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. But also validation. There are those in Alliance leadership who question Earth's value, who see humans as weak additions diluting military effectiveness. I volunteered to demonstrate that strength takes many forms, that the species you dismiss might save your life when circumstances demand flexibility over raw power. And your real mission, classified beyond my access level. But I can say pirates weren't random criminals. They had backing, resources, intelligence suggesting alliance insider information. Someone high up is playing dangerous games. My assignment is finding who and why. Academy provided perfect cover while building connections with future officers. It made sense, in a paranoid, conspiracy-minded way. An intelligence operative positioned as struggling cadet could observe operations, build dossiers on cadets who might become assets or traitors, all while remaining beneath notice. The other cadets, they deserve to know, after what they've been through, the mockery they put you through. They deserve exactly nothing. Aris's voice suddenly hardened. They judged me based on appearance, dismissed me based on origin, treated me as inferior because I didn't match their physical standards. If today's events taught them anything, it should be that assumptions kill. Let them wonder. Let them question. Let them realize the weakest link might actually be the strongest chain. She stood, collecting equipment. You'll receive official instructions within the hour. Memory modification protocols for everyone involved. Classified mission status. Non-disclosure agreements with criminal penalties. This operation never happened. I'm still just Aris Thorne, struggling cadet from Earth, barely passing minimum standards. But people saw you. Squad 7, Commander Kraith, dozens of others witnessed your capabilities. And they'll remember me getting lucky, being in right place at right time. Following orders from actual operators running real mission. Human memory is remarkably malleable when proper techniques are applied. By tomorrow, I'll be back to being weak Earthborn, and everyone will have forgotten today's uncomfortable truths. She walked toward exit, paused at threshold, looked back with something approaching sympathy. One thing they won't modify, instructor, your certainty that humans are dangerous. Keep that. Remember that the species you patronize, the individuals you dismiss, they might be exactly what saves Alliance when things go wrong. We're small, yes, weak by your standards. Absolutely. But we're also stubborn, creative, and willing to go places others won't. That combination, that's terrifying if you're our enemy, invaluable if you're our ally. Then she was gone, disappearing into corridor, leaving me alone with thoughts that would haunt my remaining service years. Official reports classified everything exactly as Aris predicted. Memory modification teams worked through everyone involved, softening details, redirecting credit, transforming her solo operation into coordinated effort. But Jorvac came to me 3 days later, with questions burning in his eyes. Instructor, I need to know. The human, Aris Thorne. Did she really what, cadet? Nothing, never mind, just sometimes I have memories that don't quite fit, fragments of things too incredible to be real. Trust your training, cadet. Trust official reports. Everything else is just confusion caused by fear and adrenaline. He left unsatisfied, but he left. The instructors had laughed at the weak Earthborn, never knowing how badly they'd misjudged, or how fortunate they were that she was on our side. If you enjoyed this story, hit like and subscribe to Ascension of Man for more tales of underestimated heroes.